It was almost a decade ago when I was in the mountains for a hiking and skiing trip during the last few days of December. It was really cold, but the weather was perfect for our trip. I rented an Airbnb cabin for the week, nestled in a private section of woods, perfect for skiers and hikers. Though there was news of an incoming blizzard coming that week, I planned on continuing my trip anyway. I wasn't going to cut my trip 3 days short just because of a possible storm. Since I had already paid for it, I planned on being prepared for the storm instead of going back home. I think it was the second night of my trip, the night when the blizzard was starting to approach. The night that became the most terrifying night of my life. I was sleeping peacefully in my heated cabin with all the preparations for the storm. I looked out the window of my bedroom and was greeted with nothing but white sheets of snow covering everything in the dark, with heavy snow still piling on. It was dark outside, and the only noise that I could hear was heavy swishes of wind. From my window, I looked to the front door, and there was this woman outside who looked rather distressed. She was standing still in front of my cabin, just looking at the door. I quickly threw on a change of clothes and opened the door. As I opened the door, I noticed her standing still, with her head down. She looked like she was somewhere between 30 and 35 years old. She didn't say anything and started ambling toward the door with her head still down. She came right in front of me, raised her head swiftly, looked me right in the face, and with her wide-opened eyes, she asked, "Can I stay inside for a moment till the storm settles?" She didn't wait for my reply and walked right past me and into the lounge of the cabin. I didn't know how to respond, so I let her in and closed the door. I told her to make herself comfortable while I heated some coffee. She sat on the couch and was making weird noises as if she was growling like an animal. When I was in the kitchen, I heard the woman whisper. I asked her to repeat what she'd said since I couldn't understand what she was saying, but she kept mumbling, with her head down and hair all over her face. I walked up to her and bent down to try to understand what she was trying to say. When all of a sudden, she raised her head and started screaming, "This is my house! I live here! Get out of here now!" I ran towards the kitchen and told her politely that I rented the cabin from Airbnb. She went into quiet mode again. That's when I realized this lady is crazy or disoriented from the storm. So I placed a cup of coffee in front of her and I gave her a blanket to make her comfortable. I felt awkward. I didn't know what to do. By then, the woman had put the blanket over her head, and it seemed as if she was sleeping. I didn't feel comfortable just hanging in the living room kitchen area, so I went back to my bedroom to watch TV, leaving the woman alone. I thought once she woke up, she might be in a good mental state to get to know her. The snow was really coming down outside, and the wind was so aggressive that the whistling streaked through the windows. Not too long after, there was another knock at the door. I once again looked out the window, and this time there was a man outside. I went to open the door and saw that the woman was sitting on the couch in a wicked posture and was moving in a creepy manner. She started to really creep me out as I went to open the door and see who the man was and if maybe he could help me with her. I opened the door and the man was completely covered. He had a puffy ski jacket, cap, goggles, and everything someone would need in this storm. He told me that he was patrolling the area and saw lights in the cabin, so he came to ask about it. He told me that a high-intensity storm was on the way and that I should leave the place right away. There was a rescue on its way, and they could drop me off at the nearest safe place. I told the man that I was not alone, and that there was a woman in the living room who needed to be rescued as well. The man looked over my shoulder to see inside, and saw nothing. He asked me where the woman was. I pointed behind me and said, "Right there on the couch." As I turned to look, there was no one there. There was just a blanket on the couch. The cup of coffee was exactly how I left it there. I was shocked. "She was right here just a moment ago," I yelled out of shock. The man came inside the cabin and asked me what the woman looked like. I told him everything I remembered about her, and he told me something that sent shivers down my spine. He told me that the cabin I was living in had been abandoned for years, and and in the past 4 years, I was the first one to come and live in it for a few days. He told me that the woman I was talking about came here about 4 years ago and lived in the cabin for about a month. People started to get suspicious about the cabin as they could see the lights were on inside, but they never saw anyone in it or coming and going from the place either, except on the day of her arrival. One day, a senior officer went to the cabin to inspect it closely, but as he walked up to the door, he got a whiff of a terrible smell, almost like a rotten body. He broke the door down and saw that everything in the cabin was upside down and broken. Some things were burnt up as well. There were mysterious books and crafts all over the house that police took with them as evidence, and to this day, the death of that woman is a mystery. But many people say they have seen that woman walking near this cabin, so it's a restricted area. Even the police don't usually patrol the area either. I started to feel faintish and had to take a seat on the couch. The man asked me if he could wait inside, as the rescue vehicle would be there before morning, and until then, we could stay warm in the cabin. He told me to go get some sleep and that he would let me know once the vehicle was there to rescue us. There was not much to get stolen in the cabin, and everything I had was in my bedroom, so I told him to lay on the couch, and then I went to my room to get some sleep before leaving. Once I laid down, though, I couldn't stop tossing and turning. And then I stood up to a loud thump. I sat up. The door to my bedroom was open, and the sound of the outside wind was incredibly loud. I went to the living room and discovered the front door to the cabin was open too, and neither the man nor that woman was anywhere to be found. I went out to the porch for a second just to look into the woods. There were fresh-looking footsteps leading into the snow. And as I looked in front of me, that woman was standing out there in the snow facing me, holding something like a sack in her hands. She was continuously screaming, and in that wind, I could hear her muffled scream, and it sounded very scary. I ran to my room to get my boots. I got my boots and coat on and ran to the front porch again, but now the woman wasn't alone. Someone, a man, I couldn't tell if it was the same rescuer or not, was standing next to her, holding her hand, and they were both facing the house. I didn't care about the rescue team and ran to my Jeep. I drove through the 3 feet of snow. I went to the nearest safe place there was, a bar. I parked the car and booked it inside. I told the man at the bar about what had happened and the story of that woman. And he added to that story, which made it even more horrifying. He told me that the woman who lived in the cabin 4 years ago didn't die alone. There was a man with her as well. He told me that they both were the creepiest people he had ever come across, and since they had died mysteriously, no one had dared to wander near that cabin anymore. That was something I couldn't digest. I still cannot believe what happened to me that night, but I am lucky that I made it out of the cabin safely. I still wonder, though, who put the ad in Airbnb for someone to rent it?